Let's get to the business of Bible study. We're now in the book of Habakkuk. And I love this book. I love it. One of the reasons I like it so much is I discovered that Habakkuk name means to embrace. Literally, it means to wrestle. To wrestle. It means to embrace and to wrestle. And I believe that it is pertinent in the lesson in God's appointment for him to write these inspired words, this inspired vision, because Habakkuk is in a wrestling match with God. Somebody said, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, in reality, many of us find ourselves in a wrestling match with God. We're trying to grasp him, trying to sometimes understand why he does what he does. There's a couple things that we need to realize before we begin to challenge God, though. Number one is that God is just God. And before there was a when and a where or a you and me, God is God. Which means, listen, we don't try to make sense out of God. God makes sense out of us. The God that I'm talking about is a God that is holy. He is righteous. Because of God's attributes and God's character, we can depend upon him. In Lamentations, when you read Lamentations 3, I love this. In Lamentations, the writer of Lamentations sounds like B.B. King with Lucille wailing in the background. There's a part in that lamentation piece where literally he talks about the bluesy matters of his own life, the misery. That's why he's called the weeping prophet Jeremiah. In that, though, he says something really powerful, and it's really powerful for all of us to hear today. And that is, his mercies are new every morning. His compassions fail not. Here's what it says. Great is his faithfulness. And if God is faithful, that means that I can trust him, no matter what challenges I have. And I know during this time of pandemic, many of us are really tripping, man. We're having problems because of pandemic, how it affects the world. But it don't just affect, listen, non-believers. It also affects those of us that believe. Now, for those of us that believe, we got a shouting point. The same God that stepped in our, listen to the word, pandemic, steps in our pandemic. We can trust him. We can trust that he will be God and that God himself will work all things out for the good for those of us who truly believe. So we ought to wake up in the morning with a shout. We ought to wake up in the morning praising him. Here's what Paul says. It's really powerful. Rejoice in the Lord always. Look at what David says. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praises shall continually be in my mouth. Now, what should I be doing? I should be inviting people and saying, oh, magnify the Lord with me and let us exalt his name together. The ultimate purpose in our living is that God gets the glory out of our living, and our living is not in vain. Habakkuk's name means to wrestle. It means to embrace. And Habakkuk is wrestling with some things because he knows God, but there are things that he does not understand. It is interesting when we read this, we discover that Habakkuk prophesies, if you will, to Judah. The tribes had been broken, the nation had been broken into two nations. It was Israel and Judah. Interesting, Israel means to prevail with God. I got some Bible scholars in here that might understand this if I say it like this. It means to prevail with God. But where is Israel? That other portion, that other portion, I believe, northern portion of the kingdom. Where are they when this is written? According to the word of God, they are in the hands of the enemy. Their name means to prevail with God, but they're not seemingly prevailing because judgment has them placed in the hands of the enemy. Judah actually is the tribe of praise. Isn't that interesting? Habakkuk prophesies to Judah. This is the tribe. This is the kingdom of praise, and literally it represents something for each and every one of us. Yes, we have prevailed with God as He has delivered us from our sins and saved us. And yes, day by day we are prevailing with God. But we must not ever forget Judah, which represents praise. We must learn to keep our minds stayed on Him. Habakkuk, when you read it, prophesied earlier before the captivity of Babylon. As a matter of fact, in 586 BC, this man writes this particular, if you will, inspired word. Tonight I want to look at Habakkuk. Habakkuk is baffled because of some things, and I'm going to show it to you in Scripture. Can we begin by talking about the fact that Habakkuk was a prophet of God? Listen to what I'm trying to say. He was a prophet of God. He was a preacher. He was a foreteller. He was a foreteller. Habakkuk, listen, was a prophet of God. And God's prophets must prophesy according to what He shows them or what they see through His word. Listen what he says. He's a prophet. Habakkuk says, I saw. He says, I saw. He says, I saw. He said, the prophet says, listen, the burden which the prophet of the Lord saw. Now here's what he does. He sees the prophet that God Himself reveals through His word. And let me just say, maybe in this time we need more people who are speaking from the vision of God, not from the division of men, not from the mindset of those who claim to be in control, not from government, because during the course of this time, government was whacked, and we're going to see it. Listen, when we look at this, he starts with a complaint. Now, I know we like to say you ain't supposed to complain. But the reality is God really has no problem with complaints as long as you take it to the complaint section. I used to buy gifts, and I would buy gifts for people who literally, listen, they were the wrong gifts. I remember getting gifts, and I would get gifts sometimes, and those gifts were gifts that I really could not use or did not know how to use. But then I would get some gifts that would be flawed. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And I would have to take it back. If it was bought at Macy's, I had to take it back to Macy's because that's where the Macy Complaint Center is. Oh God, I wish somebody could hear what I'm trying to say. If you got any complaints, God really doesn't have any problem with complaints as long as doubts don't turn into unbelief. You got to understand the pendulum is swinging. It's swinging. It needs to land on the side of belief or unbelief. And somewhere in the middle, there are those moments, if you will, of doubt. Listen, there's no doubt in this man as to whether or not God is. Somebody ought to say God is. Listen, according to the second verse, it says, "O Lord," which suggests to me that he's addressing Yahweh. He's addressing the great covenant God, the God who he is because he is the great I am. He says, "How long shall I cry?" It suggests to me that he sees an end to it, but he needs to know in his mind, how long will we have to deal with this uncertainty? How long will we have to deal with this waiting for word to come down from Washington? How long will we have to deal with this? He says, Lord, he doesn't go to our president, he goes to God. Because he realizes that God is in control. And he said, and you will not hear me. Listen, he literally says, I know you're there, but it appears that you don't even hear me. He says, even cry out to you. I cry out to you, and listen, I cry out unto you violence. Listen, there it is, unless, what is it? There's violence that literally threatens the land and threatens the country. This is a national, if you will, letter or national song. Listen, this is national sin. It says, how long do I have to look at this violence? And it says, and you won't save me from it. Lord, I want the violence to go away, violence and home abuse and child abuse, trafficking. How long do I have to keep looking at this? How long do I have to keep watching our young boys fall in the street? Blood literally painting the very streets in which we live. How long? Lord, how long do I have to look at religion and faith that turns its eyes from you and seeks water or cisterns, according to Jeremiah 2 and 13, cisterns that don't hold water, that are manufactured by men, and you are the living water. How long do I have to watch? How long do I have to watch your church turn its face from you and seek a life of gratification and rather than real satisfaction? How long? How long do I have to deal with this pandemic exercise, this time of pandemic? How long am I going to have to stay in the house? I want to leave. How long? And you won't save me. Listen to what he says. Why do you show me iniquity and cause me to see trouble? For plundering and violence are all before me. Hey, can I ask you guys something? Doesn't that sound like somewhere you know? Where you constantly see the violence in the streets and the plundering? He says there is strife and contention arises. Listen, there is disunity. There's a lack of harmony. Listen. There's racial tensions. You got churches banging on each other. Lord, how long do I have to see it? He says, therefore, the law is powerless, and justice never goes forth. I read that not because I want to just spend a lot of time on it. I just want you to see his complaint. His complaint says, literally, God, how long before all of this is dealt with by you? The reality is that's not really a question I ask God. I trust that God is in complete control, and I know that in the midst of everything that we're going through, I can trust him for who he is. He is the Lord. And if he is the Lord, here's what he told Moses. He says, I am that I am. One writer says, that's Exodus 3:14. I will be who I will be. I am suggests that I never was. I just is. Excuse my language, but that's the reality of it. I can trust in the isness of God. Wherever I am, God is. Whatever I'm struggling with, God is able to keep me from falling and literally able to present me faultless. He says, I look at judges and they're perverted, and judgment is perverted. He says, I look among the nations and watch. And listen. I look, he says, look on I'm sorry, in number 5, this is what I want to say. God says, look among the nations and see if you see anybody like y'all. As a nation, you have me. You are the chosen people. Look among the nations, preacher, and see if there's anybody, if you see any other nation like that. Whatever they regard as their authority or their security, they hang on to it. And they hang on to it without any sound evidence that it's enough to build body, soul, and spirit. And when I looked at this, it really kind of blew my mind. He begins to share all of this. That's his complaint. He literally complains. His complaint is there's so much stuff going on, God, and I need to see you move. I need to see your presence move. I like it when I go to Psalms. When I go to Psalms 13, it's powerful. The question is asked by David. Actually, I do a sermon entitled When God Delays. In that sermon, I remind you that there are questions that we all ask. How long? Psalm 13:1. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you forget? Are there times that you feel forgotten by God? How long will you hide your face from me? How long shall I take counsel in my own soul? Listen to this. This is powerful. Take counsel, having sorrow in my heart daily. How long will my enemies be exalted over me? Consider and hear me, O Lord, my God. He says, I need you to open my eyes and lighten my eyes. It's amazing. I believe that during the time that we're dealing with right now, that this time may be challenging, but it is also a time of opportunity. It is a time for faith witness, for people to recognize who our God is, for us to realize that when we have questions, we need to be able to take those questions to the Lord. And may I suggest something some folk ain't gonna like? He's not going to answer all of them. But I want to suggest to you that we need to go to him. Look, we spend more time during this pandemic focusing on the pandemic, the problem, than we do focusing on praising God. Because God is good no matter what. God is all powerful no matter what. God is loving. God is kind. Listen, we need to remind ourselves every day, even though we stand at the door of the fiery furnace and we have been shoved in by incidences, even though that is true in Daniel. When the Hebrew boys were placed into the fire, I said it last week, somebody looked in the fire and saw, listen, not just the Hebrew boys, but saw someone that looks like the Son of God. How can they see the Son of God? Let me suggest to you, it is by the faithful witness of believers who will trust God no matter what. Yes, complaint one, he complains. How long? God, how long? We need you to do something. How long must we go through this? How long must we deal with this? When I'm distracted by the how longs, when I'm distracted by the how longs, I then begin to query concerning God within my own heart. I want to talk to somebody today. I want you to know that God is God no matter what you're going through. That God is still worth praising. And the joy of the Lord ought to be your strength. Oh man, don't you like that verse in Psalm? Delight yourself in the Lord. Make God your acknowledgement. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Listen, God blows his mind. When you read the text, God talks about raising up an evil nation to use them like a switch. A nation called Babylon. Jeremiah says it's a seething pot, judgment waiting to flow upon them, and God chooses to use even those that are enemies of the camp. And Habakkuk begins to be frustrated because he says, I know you are of much purer eyes than this. I know you can't use something evil. I know, God, I know you're purer than that. I know you're, listen, let me say this to you right now. God is Lord over everything. God can use whatever switch he wants to use. The reality is, he has a place for us that we are to, if you will, be incubated and to be shaped and to be molded. Our character is tested. Isn't that what Romans says? And doesn't Romans tell us that tribulations work in patience and patience experience? Oh my God. God is in the character building. And so he can use the episodes of our lives to develop and shape our character.